Welcome, my name's Craig Cobb and I am the founder of TraderCobb.com. I've been trading traditional markets for the last 12 years and I've dropped everything more or less to come into this Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market space because I see it as the most exciting opportunity I've personally had in my entire career. Now this course is designed for you to learn about what Bitcoin, blockchain and the opportunity that I believe we all have right now. I want to make it simple. I want to make it easy for you to understand because that's how I have created an understanding myself. Now, if you consider what people are saying about Bitcoin, blockchain, and the crypto asset space, we're comparing it a lot to the birth of the internet. And with that comes some pros and cons. You see, the internet was something that we didn't understand for the most part when it launched. We didn't really understand what we were going to do with it. Conversations such as, are we really going to be able to buy whatever we want over the internet and arrive on our door? Are we really going to use this email service to send mail all over the world? Well, for both of those things, people will call crazy, dreamers. It seems so far-fetched. It seemed like something out of a sci-fi movie. But as we know today, fast forwarding 20 to 30 years, it is something that we use in our day-to-day life. But don't just take my word for it. You see, some of the brightest minds in our world, the true revolutionaries such as Bill Gates, are talking about this wonderful technology that is Bitcoin and blockchain in such a positive way. Now, these people have got no financial interest because they don't need money anymore. They're the wealthiest in the world. You can call me crazy, you can call them crazy, or you can decide to learn what this space is. If you think about it right now, you could have bought Amazon at $1, eBay at $4. You could have bought Google very cheap as well. But you're either somebody who thought that that was crazy, you weren't around at that time, or it wasn't of interest to you. Well, don't worry. Right now, I believe I'm going to open up an opportunity for you through understanding, because with education comes power. We all know that, okay? It sounds corny, I know, but the truth is I'm here to help you to understand what this space is so you don't miss another opportunity like the dot-com boom. Investors tend to invest with trends. And one of the trends that we are seeing at the moment is a huge uprising of what are called millennials. These are the sons and daughters of the baby boomers. Now, millennials have been avoiding the stock market for quite some time because it's a bit complicated. They don't quite understand it. But with crypto assets and Bitcoin, we are seeing a rise of this new demographic. This is a very powerful demographic with a huge amount of power. They're voters, they're there, they're growing up, and they're involved in this space. Now, as much as that's not financial advice to follow what millennials are doing, it's certainly a new trend that is taking hold. The opportunities are endless, the time is now, and I'm going to take you through step by step so that you understand what Bitcoin and blockchain is all about. So sit back, relax, and enjoy learning about this amazing space. So right now is probably a really good time to introduce you to what blockchain actually is. And it might seem complicated, but that's only because you haven't been explained in a nice, simple way. Everything I do is to break it down into simple, logical, easy to understand steps, and I'm going to endeavor to do the same right now. Tying it back to the internet, as I mentioned just a second ago, something like eBay is a peer-to-peer network. One buyer, one seller, and eBay ties that together in the middle as the source of trust. Now, eBay, of course, takes a cut of the sale to make money as a business. And it's a centralized network where everything is underneath one roof. Of course, they've got their rating systems and it helps you to build trust. Build trust, build trust. The blockchain is a place that is trustless. It is a place where we know it's factual, it is recorded on somewhat of an online ledger. A good example would be a game of poker. You turn up to the poker table, you pay your money, your fiat currency, you buy your chips. You play the game of poker with the chips that you have to represent the dollar value for those chips. Now, if we're playing poker with, say, a table of 10 people, and every single poker move is written on a logbook by each individual player. So everybody has the same copy of everything and every single move. One person decides they want to cheat. Well, if everybody puts their notes together and has exactly the same level of notes, well, that move will not happen. The blockchain works in a very similar way. So think of it like all those people writing down their notes in that poker game. Well, the blockchain, that's how it works, but with a massive network of computers all around the world, so you don't have to do anything. It's already done for you. A completely trustless system that you can check up on anytime. So can we trust this new technology? The answer is yes. I'll explain to you exactly how. If you think about PayPal, eBay, Amazon, even your bank. They hold your data, and we've all been privy to these breaches, hacks and whatnot, where data's been lost. Even Facebook's had that sort of thing recently. How do we get around this, and how do we build out this trust? Well, because it's not centralized, blockchain that is, it's a verification process by lots of computers all around the world. And the good thing about this is that they're all running off the same software. But don't worry, you don't need to download any software. You don't need to have a special computer. It's all done for you. So when you transact, all of the other computers around the world need to verify the validity of that transaction. It means there's no mistakes. Another thing is that once the information is on the blockchain, it can never be erased. Now, don't see that as a negative, much like photos on the internet of maybe some compromising times that you've had in the past. It's not like that. It's a sequence of events, a sequence of numbers. It's the code essentially that never leaves the internet. Now, in your next transaction, that may be updated, but you can never take away what has been. So therefore, again, there's no wondering, no questioning the validity of things. It's done for you. Now, how may that actually help you in your day-to-day life? Well, let me give you a great example. Your mobile telephone, your power bill, and sometimes even your bank may have some discrepancies there when it comes to money. How many times have you had a little error there and you've had to call up your mobile phone company, for example, to tell them about this $7 discrepancy of your money that's gone to them? Now, you might have to sit and hold for half an hour to an hour, and then you've got to describe to them the issue, what's gone on, and you might be there for an hour or two. Bottom line is it's $5, but it's your $5. Can you be bothered doing that? I can say that I'm personally guilty in not being bothered, because we can make more money, but we can't make more time. With the blockchain, there's no question. There's no, you have to prove that you're right. It just always is right because of the massive amount of verification that needs to take place, taking away human error and also centralized software errors. Another example is when you drive through the fast food restaurant. You've made your order, you've got a couple of kids at home, they're not happy, they want their chips, they want their burger, and they want their drinks. You get to pulling into your driveway and you realize that there's only one chips. Well, you've got 3 kids and they're all screaming for chips. You've got to go back and you've got to get those chips, but you probably didn't get the receipt, because who grabs receipts at the drive-thru, right? Are you going to go back and pick up those chips? The same can be said if there's a discrepancy, if maybe you got $4 less change than you should have. By the time you've gotten halfway home, are you really going to turn around and go back and pick that up? Probably not. This happens millions of times every single year with these massive companies. It equates to huge, huge profits, all because we can't be bothered. With the blockchain and use of the blockchain technology, these errors become a thing of the past. Just yet another way that you can understand how remarkably powerful this new technology is. Blockchain is here to help, it's here to better the way we do things, and it's here to also save us money. And that's not even touching on the wonderful investment opportunities that we have in this space. Okay, so I've explained a little bit about what blockchain is and relating it back to some ways that's easy to understand. But why does Bitcoin exist? Guys, you've heard about Bitcoin, I'm sure that you have. And if you haven't, what is Bitcoin and why did it come about? Well, you probably all remember the global financial crisis. I recall being in London and trading throughout that period, and it was a very good period to be a trader if you knew how to short sell. I also saw the negative side of that, and that was some of the guys that I was trading with about to retire, and seeing a lot of their retirement savings being absolutely wiped out. What it did around the world was truly shocking, and what occurred after that was even more shocking. We didn't see any convictions. No one went to jail. It was just a matter of people walking on and moving on with their lives. But that wasn't what happened to the people about to retire or already retired. They had to go back into the workforce. It was a really hard time for a lot of people, and the ramifications of that GFC are still being felt today. And it was horrible. Bitcoin came about because a number of people, well, we think a number of people, or one person or something, Satoshi Nakamoto is the name, and you're going to hear more of that. They decided that it wasn't such a good idea to have all of this power within these massive international conglomerates. Now, these called banks and financial institutions, of course, that's what really the crux of the financial crisis was all about. They thought it was a good time to take power back to the people and create a currency and a system whereby we, the people, owned it, i.e. it wasn't owned by a central governance. This is where Bitcoin began. And it really was there, again, to give us some power, to not have a reliance on the trust that we had to have that these bankers were doing the right things by us. Now, they didn't take responsibility, so why should we trust them? Welcome Bitcoin, a global system that was invaluable, incapable of making mistakes, ultimate accountability, and it's controlled by you and me, the people. Effectively, Bitcoin was a bit of a middle finger to the banks following on from the devastation the global financial crisis caused. But you might be asking yourself, what is Bitcoin? Well, it's essentially a currency. It's not the only use of the blockchain, but it's one we're going to use as an example right now. Why do we need another currency? Why do we need another Australian dollar, another US dollar? Why do we need another sterling? Well, we don't. They already exist. What we do need, however, is something that cannot be counterfeited. It cannot be printed recklessly like we're seeing with the use of quantitative easing, where they just print more and more and more money, therefore devaluing it. How does value get derived? Well, using the US dollar as an example, it used to be underpinned by gold. So a certain amount of currency was pinned by a certain amount of gold. Now, of course, all this changed quite some time ago, and it's underpinned or issued by the Federal Reserve. But bottom line is this: why would we not have governments issue their own form of currency or put currency on the blockchain? It's simply because there needs to be supply and demand. There needs to be a value to the currency for it to be long term. Now, as I said before, quantitative easing is printing lots and lots of money. With Bitcoin, there is a finite amount of Bitcoin. There are no more to be made. They can't be counterfeited. They can't be changed. What is there today will always be there regardless of anything. It's truly supply and demand, a currency that is underpinned by value and scarcity. It's the way a currency should be. So you're probably asking, why can't there be more made? I mean, it's internet money, right? Why can't they make more? Well, just the same as when you flick the switch in your house and the power comes on. I don't know how it comes on, it just does. We trust that this actually works. Now, I know you're probably wondering, well, I want more detail than that. And you can go and find more detail, be my guest. But that's not what we're here to do today. I'm here to give you an understanding of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain, how it can be used, and why you should be getting interested in this space and doing more research. Don't trust me. Go ahead and have a look at some of the quotes from some of these amazing people that have revolutionized the way things are done around the world. Some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship and creative business, such as Bill Gates, Steve Wozniak, Richard Branson, Peter Thiel, and Eric Schmidt. These are people far smarter than I. Maybe not you, but definitely me. Now, I don't invest because people tell me to invest in something. But when I do see the brightest minds of our generation all speaking positively about this emerging technology, I know I couldn't look away. Can you? What really put Bitcoin on the map, however, for its first use case was the Silk Road. Yes, I know, you've heard about it before. What about Bitcoin? It's all for corruption. It's all for dealers of drugs, illicit activities, and fraud. And not only that, but money laundering. Yep, we've got to cover that because you've all thought it, as did I. But the bottom line is this: because of the way the blockchain works, and look, it's honest, the truth is, yes, these bad things did happen, but it gave us a use for Bitcoin and did a huge amount for the growth of the space. But here's the thing: those people that were doing these activities by the use of Bitcoin, because of the way the blockchain works, many of them are being held accountable and are in jail for their activities. So again, we just need to get past this whole issue of the fraud, the drugs, the bad things, and move forward, because yep, sure, that was definitely a window of the life of Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't create that marketplace. Bitcoin was just used within that marketplace, showing just how effective it can be as a global currency. So we're going to move on from here. We're going to look at more about what Bitcoin is today as opposed to what it was and what kickstarted it, but I needed to address that with you guys. You know, one of the fascinating things about Bitcoin and its massive growth, back in 2009, you could have bought Bitcoin for about 10 cents a Bitcoin. Now what happened was many people did buy some Bitcoins, forgot all about it, came and opened it again in that peak run that we saw, and were worth multi-millions of dollars. Now, of course, we can't go back in time, just the same as we can't go back and buy Amazon at $1. But what we have an opportunity to do here, and I truly believe this is where the opportunity comes, is to be involved in something that I think will have massive implications globally and a lot more growth in this space. The market right now is still very small, it is still very early, and there's still plenty of time. It's an exciting space. Wouldn't it have been nice to have bought Bitcoin back in 2010? From those very early Silk Road days, of course, the market has grown, the technology has grown with it, and so too has its massive audience into the mainstream. And that's the very fact that I'm talking to you now and that you know what Bitcoin is, even if you haven't bought one yet. The thing is, right, with Bitcoin, nowadays, we've got a lot more eyes on it. In 2007, we saw Bitcoin break up through $1,000 and move back down. Throughout that year, we went from $1,000 all the way up to a peak of nearly $20,000. Now what that did was it brought a lot of eyes to the space. These are eyes outside of the Silk Road eyes. I'm talking tech people, some investors, some very, very intelligent people, and perhaps that's when you first heard about Bitcoin as well. The space is growing, the space is evolving, and the types of conversations that we're having literally today about the growth and who's in this market. Think Goldman Sachs, think all the big banks, most of the big banks, big corporations. Just about everybody is working, looking, exploring what Bitcoin and the greater blockchain technology can do for their business. Why? Not because they're silly, because now it's maturing. The maturing of this marketplace is going to fuel the next big move. So why would we use Bitcoin over, say, normal currency, fiat currency? Well, if you've ever traveled, you've probably found the need to send money around from border to border. One of the places that we used to see this happen a lot, and where it's been implemented massively, is in these second and third world countries where people may travel to get employment and want to send money home to their families. Well, if you use one of these current companies to send money across borders, the fees are quite phenomenal. Yeah, they're doing a good trade, and I can understand why they're not really that big a fan of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a whole. It makes sense to me. If I was in their business, I wouldn't like it either. Why? Because it's cheaper and faster. This means that Bitcoin is being used all over the world. It's a truly global currency. And of course, with that limited supply, as the demand grows, it's pretty easy to work out what might go on next from there. Now I'll give you an example. When I moved to London, 12, 13 years ago, I don't live in London anymore, but I spent time there. I needed to have an address to get a bank account open. But I didn't have a permanent address because I didn't have a bank account. I needed a bank account to confirm who I was to get an address. It was just a catch-22, and it was phenomenally difficult and backward and twisted, and I was stuck. What saved me was having a family member over there, and they allowed me to work with them to get an address and a bank account open. With Bitcoin, you don't need to do this. It is there for you when you need it. It is very straightforward, very simple to use. And a secondary measure is think about going when you're traveling to the place where you exchange money. You look at that and you go, geez. If you're a foreign exchange trader, like I have been for many, many years, you actually look at that, it's absolute pure daylight robbery. With Bitcoin, you can send it from border to border and you do not suffer the consequence of having to ask what? For someone else's money on your holiday? Come on, holidays are expensive enough. The use of Bitcoin means I can travel anywhere in the world, my Bitcoin remains the same value, and I just need to convert it across into the dollars or the currency of that country, and I'm good to go. So again, you can just see another way that Bitcoin can be used in your everyday life. Again, another reason why we believe it's going to go even further than what it has done now. So what's Bitcoin's value derived of? Well, just like any market, it's about supply and demand. Whatever people want to use Bitcoin, trade Bitcoin, or transact with Bitcoin, we're going to have a value there. Now, the difference between Bitcoin and gold, there's not really that much. The main one, based on the supply and demand principles, is that there is a limited amount of Bitcoin. There will never be more Bitcoin ever made again. Again, we are not able to forge or counterfeit a Bitcoin. Now think about gold. This is another thing that we perceive as value, and Bitcoin, as I say, has been called digital gold, and here's why. With gold, we don't know how much gold there is in the world. We do, however, know it costs this much to mine an ounce of gold. We also can do exactly the same for each Bitcoin. Remember earlier when I said about the trustless system whereby all the computers running the same software verify your transaction, therefore never having any errors? Well, those computers are what we call miners, the same as with gold. So there is an actual value there for doing something, and that value is true. The trick to Bitcoin's price increasing, and it is still such an emerging tiny little market, is people like you starting to understand not just the word Bitcoin, but what it can actually do. Cheaper transactions, faster transactions, a global currency with a limited supply. You're starting to understand exactly why so many of the world's most genius people are involved in this space and extremely excited. It's why I'm here, and it's why I've put so much time and effort to researching and working within this space. Bitcoin, as far as I'm concerned, has a long way to go, and it's not just based on my views, guys. Find out for yourself. But what I can tell you is this: with great demand and limited supply, we have opportunities. Can you see that, or are you going to miss this? So I've been talking about supply and demand. What does it actually mean? Well, I'm about to show you something called a candlestick. I'm going to introduce you to what supply and demand visually looks like. It's not a complex algorithm. There's nothing complicated about it, and I'm about to prove that to you right now. Okay, so what you're going to start to see if you continue on through is that I'll be using charts to do a lot of my trading, and that's basically how I trade. I literally read the charts by a very visual form. And it's not difficult to do, but we need to first of all kick off with what a candlestick is and really what the anatomy of a candlestick is, because the charts are made up of these candlesticks. Now you've got two types of candlesticks. You've got a buyer candlestick, which we will represent as being a green candle. And you've also got a red candlestick, which we'll identify as a sell candle. Now, I know that we often like to overcomplicate things, but let's not do that this time. A buyer candlestick is quite simply set up as green. That's the way we've got it on the left-hand side. And let me just take my drawing tool out right here and show you exactly what I mean. On the, oops, that's the wrong tool, the right tool, this is the one. On the left-hand side where you see open, that bit there, that's where the price opened. So let's say at 12 o'clock midday, this candle opened, and then let's say it's a 1 hour candle. So each candle represents a time period, okay? It also represents the price at which the candle opened, the price at which the candle closed. Two key pieces of information to decide whether or not it's the buyers or sellers that have won that period of time. Now in this case, it's opened here and it's closed higher. Therefore, it's a green candle. Therefore, the buyers won this candle over, let's call it a 1 hour time frame. There is more important information that is on this candle as well. We have a high, which is up here, represented by the upper extremity of this candle, and a low, which is obviously where price has also reached. So effectively, price has done this. Maybe it opened here, moved down, and then throughout the day it moved back up, and then it settled to close somewhere like this. And that is represented by this candle on the chart that you see right now. I hope that makes sense. I'll get rid of that funky little line there and go on to the next. The opposite occurs for a red candle. It opens on the left hand side once again, and it's closed here on the right hand side. The reason this candle is red is because it was lower than where it opened. The candle closed lower than where it opened. Now again, let's call this a 1 hour candle. In that 1 hour period of time, there was at one stage a high of this level here, and at one stage as well, there was a low of this candle here. But the information that the candles tell us is price movement measured by time. And that's why it's such a crucial element to what we need as traders, because what we're trying to do, or not just traders, investors as well, what we need to understand is who is winning, the buyers or sellers, because there are two options that you have. You can buy or you can sell. Any tool that gives us an objective viewpoint to help answer those questions is absolutely valuable. So that's how candlesticks works. Do not overcomplicate them. Essentially put, a green candle is a candle that went up. A red candle is a candle that went down. We'll cover more of this if you get there later on. So now you understand what blockchain is, more or less. You understand what Bitcoin is and why there may be a perceived value and why the millions upon millions of people around the world are investing in Bitcoin and blockchain in general, and why the brightest minds of our generation are also excited about the growth of a new technology. But who actually invests? I mean, how do we get here? The only way a market has demand is if people actually want it. So let's take you through a quick little walk through who started this whole thing off. In 2009, we had the libertarians coming in and wanting to support something that was for the greater good of humankind, taking power away from the big institutions. We'd been basically scarred by the global financial crisis, and people were angry. Bitcoin gave them an outlet to start to support something that wasn't centralized. Between 2010 and 2013, we entered the Silk Road. The first actual use case for spending your Bitcoin was created. Yes, we've touched on the fact that there were some nefarious dealings going on there, but it actually showed a use case and the currency actually worked. Between 2013 and 2015, we saw the early speculators come in. Some people from the tech community also, people that were much involved in these groups, these chat rooms, and these little societies and networks that were looking at new things. This is what really spurred the technology to grow through its next phase. They actually helped it grow through this next phase by a series of education within these networks, and it started to really flourish into something we could actually use. 2016 saw a lot more speculators come to the space as the volatility did start to increase on Bitcoin. And don't get me wrong, we had seen some massive ups and downs throughout that period, but 2016 really started to see new participants come into this market. Some traders started to come in as well, and we started to see the very first little tiptoes of mainstream people entering into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. In 2017, probably around about the time that you started hearing about Bitcoin, as it was plastered all over the world's media, we saw a lot of different people come in. I entered this space as a trader. There was enough volatility for me to use the tools that I do for my entry, stops, and targets. I could apply my skill as a financial trader in this amazingly volatile marketplace. Other investors came in, and lots of millennials, younger people that were a bit disenchanted with the complexities of buying stocks, and also the fact is they didn't have a lot of money. Cryptocurrency, blockchain, and Bitcoin opened them up to opportunities where they understood the technology and they were savvy enough to execute. A lot of mum and dad investors came into the space, flooding the market, driving the price up subsequently to see its absolute peak at the end of 2017. Now that we're in 2018, the market has come off a little bit. I don't see this as a bad thing. Back in 2017, many institutions were saying how bad Bitcoin was because they didn't understand it. They didn't support it because they didn't know how to profit from it. And make no mistakes, institutions are there to make money. And if someone else is having a slice of that pie and they are not invited to that party, they're going to say the pie is bad. Now, they've investigated further. We have the likes of Goldman Sachs having a team. We have massive, massive companies the world over with teams in blockchain, cryptocurrency trading, and a whole new conversation has begun. The building of the technology, like the internet, layers put on top of the blockchain, because the blockchain, it's like the internet in the sense that you can build things with it. It can be implemented into already existing businesses. It's starting to really gain a huge amount of momentum, and the best thing is that there's a lot more to go. They're only just getting started, so too is this space. So we've talked about Bitcoin, we've talked about blockchain, and there being more than one use case for blockchain technology. I'm going to introduce you to a term called altcoins, and you're going to learn more about this. But for right now, altcoins are anything that is not Bitcoin. It's an alternative to Bitcoin. It's the use of blockchain, but possibly not just for a currency transaction. If you recall Alta Vista, do you remember that search engine? Yahoo used to be a massive player in the space, and more recently, Bing, and of course, the mighty Google. All of these search engines do the same thing, but they have different teams, different objectives, and their own different way of doing things. Of course, we know now that Google is the winner of these four, but at one stage it wasn't. Alta Vista was the largest out there. You see, this is a place for businesses to grow. You're still going to have one team perform better than another, just the same as with an airline company. One will make money while one loses money. This is why it's incredibly important to get a really good education on what blockchain is and what to look for in a good investment. Ethereum was one of the early projects built on the blockchain. And it was an amazing success, and a huge community has been built, and the technology keeps on going from strength to strength. The interesting thing with Ethereum is it's almost like the underlying internet, in a sense, because you can build on top of the Ethereum network, and many businesses or many ideas, projects and tokens build on that platform. Think about the internet. I don't really understand how it works, and most of you probably don't either. But you're watching this through the use of that internet, and that's powerful. The Ethereum network is something where you can build upon it, much the same as not every website's the same, but they all require the internet. It's brought a lot more businesses into the space because it's already got a ready-made place or platform to build upon. Now, why is there more than Bitcoin? Why are there a lot of altcoins? Because as I said before, there are a lot more use cases on the blockchain than just transacting in currency. And this is where amazing opportunities lie, and the space will continue to develop and grow over time. So how do you buy crypto? How do you buy Bitcoin? How do you get involved? Well, there are two options. There's the old school and the new school. You can buy your crypto through a broker. Now, the best way to describe this is by describing something you're probably familiar with, and that's buying stocks and shares. You can go down to your local stockbroker, sit down, pull up a chair and talk about stocks till the cows come home, and you'll definitely pay more for it. Or you can jump online and use an online trading platform. Now, in both cases, you'll still need to convert your fiat currency, your US dollars, Australian dollars, whatever currency you're working with, into that of stocks, shares, or in this case, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. The wise way of doing it for most people, the easier way, the faster way, the less painful way is to go through what we call an exchange. And that's much the same as an online stockbroking platform, but for cryptocurrency. You see, you bring your fiat currency in, and you buy your cryptocurrency with it. Now, the exchange also offers a way to get back out. So you can buy with fiat currency to Bitcoin, let's say, and if Bitcoin rises in value and you wish to take profit and make money, well, you'll convert that back into whatever currency you have at home. Most people do it online simply because if you consider back in the day, on a Friday when you went to bank your check, you would go and stand in line at the bank and it would take a fair bit of time. So nowadays, you can send money, do your banking, do everything, even on your mobile telephone. It's just faster, it's pretty much easier, and there's no longer a big queue if you do it online. So, a lot of people are wondering, well, if I buy Bitcoin, can I spend it everywhere? And the answer is no, not just yet. The thing is though, you can't spend Apple shares either. You need to invest in the Apple shares, watch them increase in value, hopefully, and then you can pull your money back into your local currency and spend it however you need. Now, no matter what you do, what you buy, or how you buy it, you can always bring it back out. So when I told my dad about this last year, he didn't understand it at the time. I then progressed to walk him through the step-by-step process as to how it actually worked. And bottom line is this: when you buy shares, you can't spend those shares. You can sell those shares and the money comes back and you can do whatever you want with that money. Now, one of the best things about Bitcoin is that if you can't afford one full Amazon stock, for example, you can buy a part of a Bitcoin. You don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's past your affordability to buy one, you can buy a minute incremental amount and that gets you into the space. So it really is inclusive. Everybody's available to trade this market, buy this market, invest in this market, and use this market to their advantage. And that's why a lot of the younger generations were the first to have a bite of this cherry. It was far more accessible, far more inclusive than trading equities. So by now, you're probably at the junction where you're somewhat interested in Bitcoin, blockchain, and this marvelous new technology, and you're wondering, how can you actually profit from this? Well, that's where we can discuss this. There are two ways that you can do this. One way is you can invest much the same as you would invest in any market. And look, let's be honest, the cryptocurrency market is exactly that. It is a market. There are buyers and sellers. There's emotion attached to it. The same behavioral activities occur in this space as they do in the ASX 200, the FTSE 100, the Dow Jones, the S&P, the DAX, the CAC, all these markets. It's exactly the same. It's just a market. So therefore, you've got the two options. One is you can invest in this space and hold long term if you believe in projects that you think will be successful and their teams, much the same as with any other project out there or company. The other is to trade. Now, I'm a trader and I also invest in the space, but I've been trading for 12 years, and that's where I believe that the best opportunities can lie, certainly for myself, as that's where my level of expertise lies. You see, the thing with this marketplace is that it is extraordinarily volatile. And for me, as a trader, we want volatility in this space. Now, don't let that sound scary, because trading's a lot easier than you might think. You just need to learn the right steps. Whether you go for investing or trading, or you decide to do both, it'll be a pretty good idea to have somebody or a few people on your team that know what they're doing, because it is a new space and you do need guidance. I'll tell you, that's how I learned, by working with the best people in the space at the time. As with any new skill, reading a book, watching YouTube videos, it's not really going to give you all the skills that you need to have. You need to have a structure, a strategy, and you need to be able to practice that. You know, a book's not going to teach you how to drive a car, but it will teach you what to do when you reach the stop signs. You need practical experience. You need to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you need to actually get some hands-on. So when you do start, whether it be investing or trading, I always suggest that you start very small. Manage your risk first and foremost, because that is the key to any good investment long term. Building a portfolio for trading or investing does first require a very strong level of understanding of risk. If you manage the downside potential of your portfolio or trading account, then there's only one way to go, and that's up. Now, I'm not going to say trading or investing is easy for that matter, but what have you ever achieved in life that was easy? So hopefully I've done my job now and taught you a bit about blockchain, cryptocurrency, the ways that we can get involved in the space, and hopefully the outstanding potential that this space holds. Look, it's just another market. It's another opportunity for those that wish to diversify their current portfolios or enter into something new that has massive implications globally if it is to go on and be truly revolutionary, like many of the biggest names in our generation are suggesting it may be. There is one thing for sure. It is an incredibly exciting technology with a huge amount of use case and growth, I believe, still to come. Some people call it the new internet or Internet 3.0. Many people believe that blockchain will be very similar to the internet in the sense that we'll just use it and we won't necessarily think about the fact that we're using blockchain. Now, if this is to come to fruition, if we are to see Bitcoin, blockchain, and crypto assets really take that step into the mainstream, and I believe we will, there's going to be some absolutely astonishing opportunities available. And those opportunities are available today. They're available right now as we stand. It's certainly the most exciting opportunity that I've ever had in my career as an investor and a trader. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this thinking, I could be buying the next Amazon at $1, the next Google at $4, or eBay at $1. Now, the internet had a boom and bust, but look what came out of that space. Now's the time to be finding these projects and opportunities that are going to build and grow over time. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, then TraderCobb.com can help. And that's me. I can help you with this process. You see, I'm a trader with 12 years of trading experience. I specialize in reading charts. It's not a complicated thing. It sounds complicated, I know, but it's not complicated at all. You see, I teach in step-by-step broken down process in language that you can understand to this point, so it's not going to hinder your progress when we work together soon. I can take you from an absolute beginner to exactly where you want to be as a trader. And my job that I've been doing for a long time now is to help you become the best trader that you can be. Now, there are no promises, there are no guarantees. I can show you what you need to do. It's up to you to do it. If you've got the desire, if you've got the urge, the energy, the passion and the enthusiasm to explore this market further, whether it be investing or trading, then you certainly need to take the next step. And the next step is quite a simple one. I promise you, you'll be surprised at how simple it really is. So obviously, there are some things that you're going to need to do before you can enter in and buy your first fraction of a Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever it may be. Things like what exchanges to open, how to use these exchanges, what you'll need to do to set them up. I'll teach you all of this. Security, which is called two-factor authentication, what this means, how to do it to keep you, your funds, and your crypto assets safe and secure as you possibly can. How to transfer funds to purchase cryptocurrency. I'll show you the tools that you need to learn to get started in trading and also investing. There are certain websites that are free to use, certain charting platforms that are also free. So you'll have a list of exactly what to use and where to find that. When it comes to crypto assets, I'll also introduce you to further levels of security where you can actually store it when nobody else can get any access to it at all. There is an art to it. It's not complicated, but once again, there's a simple process that you need to follow to make this happen, smooth and very secure for you and your family for decades to come. Of course, naturally, as I am a trader, I do read charts. I'm going to introduce you guys to some of the basics. It's also going to help those of you that are looking to trade or invest fundamentally. Things like trend reversals, what a trend is. Look, I'm going to keep it very basic, very, very straightforward, as I do with everything. But it's absolutely crucial that you do understand this and learn this, and you can use fundamentals and technicals together. As a matter of fact, when combined properly, and I'll show you how, they can have some very, very good outcomes. And of course, how to cash in if your crypto assets go very well, how to get it back into your local currency so that you can spend it on the things that you wish. Sound like something that you want to do, but you're still not convinced that it might be a little bit complicated for you? Well, consider this. You want to bake a chocolate cake. You've never baked a chocolate cake before in your life. You don't know what the ingredients are, you don't know what it looks like, what it smells like, and you open up to a pantry with 5,000 ingredients. This is where many of you will be right now when it comes to trading and cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. What you can have a big step forward in is someone giving you a recipe, introducing you to each of the individual ingredients within that recipe and explaining why they need to be used and how to use them in combination. Now, if you follow that recipe, maybe the first time you bake that cake, it's not going to be perfect. But if you practice it time and time again, you are naturally going to get better and better. The product's going to become better, you're going to become more confident, and you might even add a few things to it. This is how I teach. I will literally walk you through step by step everything I just suggested. It will be easy, it will be fun, and it is there for you to do right now. So I look forward to inviting you onto the beginner course. I genuinely hope that if you don't take that next step, that you've learned a lot. And if you do, well, I'm sure you're going to be blown away by just how simple it is. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I genuinely hope I've been able to open your eyes to Bitcoin, blockchain, and what crypto assets are. Because what you've learned now and what you're about to learn might just change your life forever.
The Trader Cobb Crypto Show, talking business in blockchain.